Hello, welcome to the channel Y Stories. Enjoy watching.
Your daughter owns nothing here. Everything was bought by my son, the mother-in-law screamed, throwing the suitcases of her daughter-in-law's parents outside the gates of the country house. But then the real owners arrived. Elena closed her eyes, letting the May sun warm her face. The old wooden gate creaked, its terracotta paint chipped and peeling. It had always creaked, for as long as she could remember. Every spring, her father promised to oil the hinges, but somehow never got around to it. Now that creak had become part of the ritual of returning to the country house, the first sound signaling that one was home. "There you are," she murmured, running her palm over the rough bark of the orange tree. "Hello, old girl. You survived another winter." Carlos, weighed down with bags, stopped behind her. Talking to the tree again, he smirked. "You could help me carry the bags instead." "It's not just a tree," Elena smiled. "I used to do my homework under this orange tree all through school. Dad built a little table and bench here." She paused. The table was gone. Her father had dismantled the rotting planks a couple of years ago. But in her memory, it stood strong, etched with physics formulas and chemical equations. In ninth grade, she had spilled brilliant green antiseptic on it, leaving a blot that looked like a map of a non-existent island. "If you're in the mood for nostalgia, let's unload first, then you can give me the full historical tour." Carlos kissed the top of her head, though impatience tinged his voice. Elena nodded. She understood this side of him. Practicality always came first. Business before sentiment. Maybe that's why he'd already become a successful manager by the age of 32. They hauled the belongings from the car into the house. Her father's old car, gifted to them after the wedding, sputtered one last breath of exhaust and fell silent. For the past 2 years, it had served them faithfully, despite Mercedes Fernandez's constant scoffing. "As if my son should be driving such a wreck," she'd sneer every chance she got. It's high time he got a proper car and stopped embarrassing himself. Elena threw open the windows of the house. The air was stale, dusty, heavy with the scent of old books. The bookshelves were another point of pride for her father. Their family had never been particularly wealthy, but her father, a high school physics teacher, and her mother, a librarian, had amassed an impressive home library. Here, in the country house, were the duplicates and volumes for summer reading. Elena ran her finger along the spines, wiping away the dust. Garcia Marquez, Borges, Isabel Allende, her mother's favorites. Cortázar, Vargas Llosa, Cervantes, her father's classics. In one corner sat a stack of worn-out crime novels by Manuel Vázquez Montalbán, her father's one literary indulgence. "Maybe we should air the place out first." Carlos threw open the veranda doors and stepped outside. He had always been this way, active, restless. When they met 3 years ago at a corporate party, back when she was freelancing as an event organizer during college, Carlos had stood out among the crowd of slightly drunk office workers. He didn't drink, didn't smoke, cracked smart jokes without being crude. And he danced like a dream. Half the women at the event had fallen for him. The spark between them was immediate. He invited her for coffee the very next day, and within a month they were practically inseparable. Elena's parents had been cautious at first. Things were moving quickly, but they soon warmed to him. Carlos had a gift for making people like him. "Look here," Elena stepped into the yard and pointed to an old swing set. "Dad made it when I was 7. I kept falling off and skinning my knees." Mom fretted. Dad laughed and said a real astronaut needed strong bones. "Astronaut?" Carlos touched the peeling paint on the metal frame. "I really wanted to go to space," she laughed. "Dad supported me. Said even aliens would make deals with a girl that stubborn." Carlos shook his head in mock disbelief. "And yet you became a philologist." "Life is complicated," Elena shrugged. "But hey, now I write texts for your company, so there's some logic in it after all." They walked around the small property, half a hectare, the standard size for a Spanish country house, inherited by Elena's parents back in Franco's time. One half was a vegetable garden, where her mother still planted tomatoes, cucumbers, and herbs, though her father grumbled it would be easier to buy them. The other half was a garden, a few orange and lemon trees, olives, and an old fig tree. Flower beds lined the perimeter, now blooming with vibrant tulips. Mom planted these. Elena gently touched a velvety red petal. Every fall she'd sort through the bulbs, discard the sick ones, buy new ones. She had an entire photo album with the varieties and planting schemes. Real scientific method. Carlos wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You talk like they're gone. Sorry, Elena blushed. It's just, when I'm here, time folds in on itself. I'm little again, my parents are young, and everything is still ahead of us. Carlos met her parents after 6 months of dating. The lunch went well, warm, relaxed. Elena's father, Jose Ramirez, perked up upon learning his future son-in-law liked fishing. Her mother, Sofia Martinez, a gentle and tactful woman, created a cozy atmosphere from the start. They didn't pry or demand anything. They were simply happy for their daughter. Meeting Carlos's mother was another story. Mercedes Fernandez, an elegant woman with a perfect hairstyle and manicure, received them in her meticulously tidy apartment. The table was set with fine china, refined tapas, expensive Rioja. I raised my son alone, she announced within the first 5 minutes. My husband left when Carlito was 3. But I got this apartment and raised a proper man. He's my only joy. Elena smiled, nodded, complimented the hostess and the food. But inside, tension was building. Mercedes Fernandez examined her with thinly veiled disapproval, as if assessing a product on display. So, you're a philologist, she drawled when Carlos stepped out to make a call. You speak any languages? Mostly Spanish, Elena joked. Intermediate English. Pity. You need languages these days. Carlito speaks English and French fluently. He's always been gifted. Attended a special school. The tone left no doubt, the daughter-in-law clearly didn't measure up. After dinner, Mercedes ushered them into what she called her salon, a tiny room housing family heirlooms and photo albums. They spent an hour going through pictures of little Carlos, in preschool, school, university. In every photo, a proud mother beside him. There was no sign of the father. I erased him from our lives, Mercedes said curtly when Elena gently asked. We were fine on our own, weren't we, son? Carlos nodded, but Elena noticed the tension in his shoulders. When they announced their decision to marry, Elena's parents hosted a modest celebration, gifted them an envelope with money, and gave their blessing. Mercedes Fernandez had her own reaction. So soon? She raised a thin eyebrow. Carlos, are you sure? You haven't even lived together. We've been living in my apartment for 6 months, Mom, he reminded her patiently. That doesn't count, she waved it off. That's just visits. But if you insist, she sighed with the air of a martyr. I'll support any choice you make. They had a spring wedding, a small one, about 50 guests. Elena's parents spent their savings to create a beautiful celebration for their daughter. Mercedes insisted on an upscale restaurant in central Madrid, though the couple had preferred a more modest venue. People must see our status, she declared, brooking no argument. And now, 2 years later, they were finally opening the season at the country house over the May holidays. Until now, something had always come up, work, Carlos's trips, something or other. Do you like it here? Elena asked, as they sat on the veranda with sangria. It's cozy, Carlos nodded. Needs some work, but there's potential. I'd redo a lot. Like what? Start with the fence. Then rebuild the porch. Maybe an extension. A pool wouldn't hurt. He squinted, already envisioning a grand renovation. Elena smiled. My parents would be thrilled. Dad's been dreaming of a pool, but never had the time or money. Speaking of your parents, Carlos set his glass down, my mom's birthday is in 2 weeks. I was thinking, he hesitated, and Elena tensed. Her relationship with Mercedes Fernandez hadn't improved in 2 years of marriage, if anything, it had worsened. Her mother-in-law found new reasons to criticize her. She cooked the wrong food, had the wrong hobbies, said the wrong things. Carlito likes his seafood paella. Carlito can't stand the color red. Carlito is used to perfect order. Those phrases haunted Elena even in her dreams. Let's celebrate it here, at the country house, Carlos suddenly suggested. The weather's great, we've got nature, paella. Invite your parents, a couple of mom's friends, maybe a few of mine. Elena blinked in surprise. Do you think your mother will like a countryside party? She's more into grand affairs. That's exactly why, Carlos said with excitement. She needs to get out of her sterile apartment. A change of scenery, some casual interaction, it'll do her good. And your parents too. It's time to build a real bond. We're one family now. He had a point. Maybe an informal setting would help melt the ice between Mercedes Fernandez and Elena's parents. So far, they had only met at the wedding and a couple of tense dinners. All right, Elena agreed. Let's try it. But I'm not sure Mom will go for it. I'll talk to her, Carlos winked. She can't say no to me. And he was probably right. Mercedes Fernandez adored her son to the point of obsession. Sometimes Elena thought the only woman worthy of her precious Carlito would be a clone of Mercedes herself. But she never said that out loud. Carlos was sensitive about any criticism of his mother. Can you believe it? She agreed. Carlos burst into the apartment 3 days later, beaming with joy. Though she insisted on organizing the table herself. That's good, Elena said hesitantly. Of course, Carlos kissed her. You know how Mom loves to run the show. Let her. She'll enjoy it. Mercedes Fernandez called the next day. Elenita, I've put together the menu, came her sweet voice on the line, the one she only used when absolutely necessary. You won't mind if I make a few improvements to your country house, will you? What kind of improvements? Elena asked warily. Nothing special. I'll bring a new tablecloth, napkins, proper cutlery. Surely we're not eating with plastic forks. We have regular dishes, Elena began, but her mother-in-law cut her off. And also, dear, I need the keys. I'll arrive early to get everything ready. Elena wanted to object but remembered Carlos's plea to be more gentle with his mother. After all, it was her birthday. Let her have her joy. Fine, I'll leave the keys with Dona Conchita, the neighbor. You know the White House across the road? I'll remember, the mother-in-law answered curtly. And one more thing, Elenita, please tell your parents not to overdo the gift. You know my taste. Elena did. Mercedes Fernandez's taste was expensive and pretentious. Her parents could hardly afford a gift that would match it. But she kept quiet and simply promised to pass on the message. That evening, she voiced her doubts to Carlos. Maybe we should just book a restaurant. It's so much work. Come on, he hugged her. It's going to be great. Mom is thrilled, your parents agreed too. Paella, nature, good company, what could go wrong? Elena sighed. On that clear May evening, her worries felt exaggerated. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that this celebration would be a turning point in their relationships. She had no idea how right she was. The morning of the party was hectic. Elena woke with the first rays of sunlight and immediately reached for the to-do list she had prepared the night before. Carlos was still asleep, his hand tucked under his cheek like a child. She loved him most in moments like these, relaxed, free of his usual businesslike facade. Wake up, sleepyhead, she gently shook his shoulder. We've got loads to do. What time is it? Carlos mumbled, stirring. Almost 7. We need to buy groceries, pick up the cake, and get my parents. And meet Mom at the train station, he added, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. She said she's coming on the morning train. Elena frowned. Didn't we agree she'd go straight to the country house? She had a key. She changed her mind, Carlos shrugged. Decided to help us with the shopping first. More like supervise, Elena thought but said nothing. Criticizing Carlos's attachment to his mother was useless. He truly didn't see the problem. An hour later, they were wheeling a cart through the supermarket. Elena checked the list. Okay, we've got seafood for the paella, salad, veggies too. Should we grab some fruit? Mom doesn't like strawberries, Carlos said automatically as they passed the bright red berries. She's allergic. All right, we'll get something else, Elena replied calmly, though inside she seethed. Constantly tiptoeing around her mother-in-law's tastes was exhausting. As they were finishing up, Carlos's phone rang. Yes, Mom. We're at Mercadona. Yes, we'll be there soon. What? He looked at Elena. No, Elena didn't wear the blouse you gave her. No, today's just a regular day, we're grocery shopping. Okay, I'll tell her. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Mom wants to know why you never wear her gifts. Elena rolled her eyes. The blouse in question, screaming pink, with ruffles and rhinestones, sat buried on a shelf in the closet. Wearing that in a country house to cook and clean. Mercedes Fernandez clearly lived in another reality. At the station, she was waiting in full regalia, light-colored suit, heels, perfect hair. She pursed her lips when she saw disheveled Elena in jeans and a t-shirt but held back. She kissed her son on the cheek and offered Elena only the tips of her fingers. How was the trip, Mom? Carlos took her oversized bag. Awful. The carriage was stuffy, and a woman with a whining child sat next to me the whole time. And a man drinking beer at 8 a.m. on the other side, can you imagine? She shuddered. I've forgotten how ordinary people travel. Elena turned away deliberately, pretending to study the schedule. Ordinary people, Mercedes Fernandez's favorite phrase to separate their family from the less cultured masses. Shall we go? Carlos tried to lighten the mood. We still need to pick up the cake. Cake, the mother-in-law perked up. I hope you ordered from Mallorca. Only they make decent ones. Actually, my parents ordered it, Elena said cautiously. From a bakery near their house. Mercedes Fernandez winced. Well, we'll see what they've come up with. Though I would have preferred something tried and true. When they pulled up to Elena's parents' building, her father was already waiting outside with a large cake box. Her mother stood beside him with a bouquet of garden flowers and a wrapped package. Hello, Dona Mercedes. Sofia Martinez greeted her with a warm smile. Happy early birthday. Thank you, the mother-in-law nodded coolly, eyeing her simple dress. How cute. Wildflowers. They're not wild, Sofia corrected gently. Early carnations from our garden. I cut them especially for you. Very sweet, Mercedes Fernandez repeated, devoid of sincerity. And the box? Hopefully, the cake's not too heavy. I have digestive issues, you know. Elena tensed. One more comment, and she'd snap. But her father saved the moment by calmly opening the box. A light yogurt cake, low sugar. We ordered a diet version. Inside lay a delicate cake, decorated with fresh berries and a chocolate inscription, Happy Birthday. Even Mercedes Fernandez couldn't find anything to criticize. The drive to the country house passed in tense silence. Carlos tried to make conversation, work, summer plans, an office story, but it didn't land. Elena's parents nodded politely. Mercedes added the occasional comment. Elena stared gloomily out the window. As they neared the house, Carlos suddenly smacked his forehead. I forgot to mention, I invited Diego and Laura. They'll be joining us. Who? Elena asked. You know, my colleague from sales. With his wife. They've been wanting to meet Mom for ages. And I'm only hearing about this now? Elena frowned. It just slipped my mind, Carlos replied casually. They called last night to ask about a gift. I figured, why not? Elena tapped her knee nervously. Now it made sense why Mercedes had pushed for an upscale event. She knew about the extra guests and wanted to impress them. We should have discussed this, Elena said quietly, so the others wouldn't hear. I planned food for a specific number of people. Don't worry, Carlos waved it off. 2 extra plates won't change anything. The gate greeted them with its familiar creak. Elena was surprised to see the flower beds already weeded and the path swept. Her parents must have come early to prepare the grounds. As soon as they entered, Mercedes surveyed the place with a proprietary air. All right, we'll set the tables on the veranda. Carlito, give me a hand. And where do you keep the tablecloths? In the cupboard, top shelf, Elena said, taking off her jacket. But I thought. No worries, dear, I brought everything, Mercedes interrupted, pulling a perfectly folded white cloth from her bag. Zara home. I bought it especially for special occasions. Sofia and Jose exchanged a glance. Watching them, Elena felt a wave of gratitude. They didn't argue or defend their territory, though they had every right. They just stepped aside, letting Mercedes take charge. I'll handle the paella, Jose offered. The rice needs to soak in advance. If you don't mind, I'd like to help too, Carlos added unexpectedly. I've got a great sauce recipe. Her father smiled. Of course. We'll get it done faster together. They headed to the yard while the women stayed to prepare salads and appetizers. It quickly became clear Mercedes intended to lead the kitchen. The peppers should be cut smaller, not so chunky, she said in a patronizing tone, watching Sofia. And you'd better use homemade olive oil, not that store-bought stuff. We don't have the means for homemade oil right now. And time's tight, Sofia replied patiently. It's all about habits, Mercedes retorted. I, for one, always make everything from scratch. Carlito's been used to natural food since childhood. Elena caught her mother's glance, a mix of surprise and sympathy. She felt embarrassed for her mother-in-law. But what could she do? Mercedes genuinely believed she was an expert in everything. By noon, most preparations were done. The tables on the veranda were set with the white tablecloth, proper cutlery, and small vases of wildflowers, an idea of Elena's mother, which, surprisingly, Mercedes didn't object to. The salads were chilling, rice soaking, the men prepping the fire. Elena retreated to the bedroom to change and freshen up. She chose a light blue dress, festive enough for the occasion, but still comfortable for a country setting. As she brushed her hair, Carlos walked in. You're going like that? He asked, frowning. What's wrong with it? Mom was hoping you'd wear the dress she gave you for New Year's. Remember? The burgundy one with the lace? Elena slowly lowered the hairbrush. The one with the open back and neckline? For a country house? Well, it's a special occasion. Carlos sat down at the edge of the bed. You know how much appearances matter to Mom. She likes us to look presentable. Elena swallowed her irritation. After all, it was her mother-in-law's birthday, hardly a reason to start a fight. Fine, she sighed. I brought it just in case. But I'm warning you, it'll be hard to help with setting the table and cleaning in that thing. Don't worry, Mom has everything under control, Carlos replied breezily. She's already almost done setting the table. When Elena stepped out in the burgundy dress, Mercedes Fernandez beamed. Now that's more like it. Isn't she stunning, Carlito? Carlos smiled proudly. The most beautiful. But no compliment from Mercedes would be complete without a jab. Though you really should have worn different shoes, she glanced at Elena's comfortable sandals. The dress is exquisite, but the shoes are so rustic. Elena adjusted her earrings without a word. The day had only just begun, she wasn't about to ruin it with pointless bickering. Around 3 in the afternoon, Diego and Laura arrived. Elena only knew them in passing, they'd met a couple of times at corporate events. Laura, a striking blonde with a sparkling laugh, quickly charmed Mercedes with an elegant gift, a porcelain figurine of a lady in vintage attire. Oh, how lovely, the mother-in-law cooed. Clearly someone with taste. Laura smiled, flattered. I heard you appreciate beautiful things. I just knew something elegant would suit you. Elena noticed her mother quietly sliding her own gift, a hand-embroidered piece she'd spent 2 weeks crafting, further under the table. Her heart clenched with shame. As everyone settled at the table, Carlos pulled Elena aside. Listen, I forgot to tell you, Mom thinks this house is ours. What? Elena nearly choked. Why would she think that? Carlos hesitated. I might have mentioned we bought a country house. She assumed we bought this place from your parents. Why did you lie? Elena hissed, glancing toward the guests. I didn't lie, I just didn't clarify. Carlos looked genuinely uncomfortable. You know how Mom is about us using someone else's property. Someone else's? This is my parents' home. They offered it to us. Keep your voice down. Carlos placed his hands on her shoulders. Let's not make a scene. Just don't bring it up, all right? It's her birthday. Elena took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. Dozens of biting remarks danced in her mind, but she held them back. Maybe now really wasn't the time. Back at the table, Mercedes was already pouring the wine. There they are. Sit down, we're about to make a toast. Elena sat between her parents, her inner tension mounting. Her mother gently squeezed her hand under the table, sensing her mood. Jose Ramirez offered the first toast, warm, heartfelt, without pomp, to the birthday woman, to future gatherings, to good weather and a loving family. Glasses clinked. The mood gradually lightened. After her second glass of wine, Mercedes grew rosy and began telling stories about Carlos. He was always so determined. Reading by 5, solving math problems at 6. His teachers said he had a brilliant future. Diego chimed in, and what did you do, Dona Mercedes? Clearly he got your talents. Oh, I was a senior economist at a major firm, she said proudly. Retired now, of course. But Carlos followed in my footsteps, just more successfully. Elena knew she was embellishing. Mercedes had been a municipal accountant, but didn't burst the bubble. After the paella and salads came the cake. Sofia carefully arranged dessert plates while Jose brought in the treat. Mercedes eyed the cake with suspicion. Looks appetizing. I hope it doesn't have artificial ingredients. Only natural, Sofia assured her. The baker is one of my former students, she's very conscientious. Mercedes nodded reluctantly. As Jose cut the cake, Carlos pulled out a small box. Mom, this is from Elena and me. Happy birthday. She opened it. Inside, a gold bracelet with a heart charm. Mercedes gasped. Oh, Carlito. It's beautiful. She immediately put it on. You've always had such taste. Elena clenched her teeth. She had chosen the bracelet, spending nearly a day on it. Carlos didn't correct his mother. Sofia coughed awkwardly. We also have a small gift. She pulled out the embroidery. I made it myself. Mercedes unfolded the hand-stitched rose design that read Happy Birthday. Her face froze for a second, then forced a smile. How original. Thank you for the effort. An awkward silence fell. Diego tried to break it. You have such a charming country house. Hard to believe there's noise and dust back in the city. Yes, we're lucky, Mercedes replied. Though there's still a lot to be done. I've told my son the fence must be replaced entirely. Elena froze, forked midair. There it was. Carlos really had made her believe the house was theirs. And now she was openly discussing renovations in front of the real owners. Sofia glanced at her daughter, puzzled. Elena subtly shook her head, not now. Evening settled in. After dessert, everyone moved to the garden. The men lit a fire, the women cleaned up. Elena found her mother silently washing dishes. Mom, I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't know Carlos. It's all right, Sofia gave her a tired smile. What matters is that you two are okay. But this is your home, Elena protested. How could he lie like that? People embellish things to look better in someone's eyes, her mother said. He probably wants his mother's approval. Before Elena could reply, Mercedes's voice rang out. Elenita, where are you? We're having sherry by the fire. With a heavy heart, Elena returned outside. The evening deepened. Stars emerged, jasmine scented the air. Folding chairs circled the fire, Laura arranged cookies on a tray. Jose, chatting with Diego, suddenly said, "We've been thinking about updating the fence, make it taller and paint it green." The fence? Mercedes squinted. But isn't that Carlos's decision? A heavy silence followed. Elena saw Carlos pale. Jose raised a brow. Sophia froze with a teacup in hand. Carlos swallowed hard, avoiding her father's eyes. "Sorry, I don't understand," Jose said slowly. "Why would Carlos decide about our fence?" Mercedes straightened like a scolding teacher. "What are you implying? This is my son's house. He's in charge here. Carlito, didn't you say you and Elena bought this place?" "You bought it?" Sophia asked, stunned. Elena felt the festive atmosphere crack like thin ice. One wrong move and they'd all plunge into freezing water. Diego, Laura, more cookies, she tried to redirect, but Mercedes refused to drop it. "Carlito," her voice shook, "didn't you say this house is yours? That you bought it from Elena's parents? What is he talking about? I'll throw you out of my son's house." Diego and Laura exchanged glances. Laura tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Maybe we should leave. It's getting late." No, Carlos raised a hand with a strained smile. "It's fine. Just a misunderstanding. Mom, let's go back to the sherry and cake." "What misunderstanding?" Jose's good nature vanished. "You told your mother you bought our house? Why is she ordering everyone around?" Silence. Only the fire crackled. Carlos looked cornered. He glanced at Elena, who turned away. I may have phrased it poorly," Carlos muttered. "Phrased it poorly?" Mercedes's voice rose. "You said you invested in real estate. That this was your family nest. That you did it all yourself." Elena froze. It felt like watching a play gone wrong. "Carlos," Sophia spoke firmly, "we've never discussed selling the house. It's been ours for over 30 years. Mercedes gasped theatrically. "So you're saying my son lied to me?" "Looks like it," Jose said dryly. "I didn't lie," Carlos burst out. "I just wanted Mom to be proud." "What's so wrong about that?" "What's wrong?" Elena exploded. "You deceived your own mother. Let her believe this house was yours. And now she's making plans, moving things around, throwing her weight around." "I didn't move anything." Mercedes objected. "Not yet," Elena shot back. "But judging by the fence plan, it's just the beginning." "Children, calm down," Sophia tried to soothe. "Let's all sit down and—" "Don't tell me what to do." Mercedes snapped. "You must be thrilled to see me humiliated. I bet you and your daughter planned this." "That's absurd," Jose cut in. "No one planned anything except your son. Don't speak about my Carlito like that." Mercedes stood up, swaying slightly. "He's a perfect son. Your daughter is the bad influence. She—" "Mom, stop," Carlos said suddenly, firmly. Mercedes froze as if struck. Silence fell. A star appeared in the darkening sky. "You're defending her?" Mercedes Fernandez said in disbelief. "Against me?" "I'm just saying you're wrong to blame Elena and her parents," Carlos sighed heavily. "Yes, I lied. I admit it. I wanted you to think I'd achieved more than I really have. I wanted you to be proud of me. But I am proud of you." Mercedes's voice took on a sentimental tone. "I don't need your material accomplishments. What matters is that you're my son, my blood, my pride." Elena barely suppressed the biting comment on the tip of her tongue. Oh, but you do care. All of her mother-in-law's pride was rooted in Carlos's supposed material success. In any case, Carlos continued, trying to remain calm, I owe Elena's parents an apology. Jose, Sofia, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Jose Ramirez let out a dry chuckle. You claimed our property as your own. And now it's just a misunderstanding? Dad, Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. Let's not do this, please. An awkward silence followed, broken only by Laura, apparently deciding the worst had passed. Maybe we should try the cake? It looks delicious. Mercedes Fernandez, still visibly on edge, shot her a sharp look but said nothing. Everyone slowly, cautiously returned to the disrupted tea. Diego poured the now cold sherry. Sofia Martinez cut the cake. The tension seemed to be lifting. But it was only an illusion of calm. After his third glass, Jose Ramirez retrieved a bottle from the cabinet to smooth things over, and Mercedes Fernandez snapped again. I always suspected, she raised a finger meaningfully, that your family, Elenita, isn't as simple as it seems. Your parents have that sly look about them. What are you implying? Elena asked, tense. Come on now. That house of yours clearly isn't cheap. And someone gave you a car, and everyone chipped in for the wedding. None of that is a coincidence. Mother, Carlos warned, but Mercedes waved him off. No, I'm not saying anything bad. I just want to understand, she paused, staring straight at Jose. You, for instance, are you really a school teacher? Or is that just another embellishment? Elena froze. Her mother-in-law was clearly attacking her parents to mask her own humiliation. Dona Mercedes, Sofia pressed her lips together. We've never hidden who we are or how we live. Jose really does teach physics at a high school. I work in a library. And yet you live so comfortably? Mercedes stressed comfortably like it was a crime. A house in a prime location, a car. The car is 10 years old, Jose replied calmly. And we got the house back in Franco's time, through the union. We've fixed it up ourselves since. Union connections. Mercedes smirked meaningfully. I suppose you had good contacts there. Enough, Mother, Carlos cut her off sharply. You're drunk. I am not drunk, Mercedes snapped. I'm just speaking the truth. What's so bad about the truth? Lies are far worse, aren't they? She threw a pointed look at her son. The rising tension was broken by a sudden loud crack from the fire. A log split, sending a spray of sparks. Everyone flinched. Seizing the moment, Sofia jumped up. I'll get more sherry. We're out. She hurried into the house. Elena, sensing her mother needed help, or just an excuse to escape, followed her. In the kitchen, Sofia silently pulled a bottle from the cupboard, looking out the window at the firelit veranda. Her eyes were filled with tears. Mom, I'm sorry, Elena said quietly, approaching her. I didn't know it would turn out like this. It's all right, Sofia offered a faint smile. I just don't understand why Carlos had to lie like that. Did we ever make him feel he wasn't good enough for us? Elena shook her head. It's not about you. It's about his relationship with his mother. She spent her whole life smothering him with expectations. So The sound of clinking glasses cut her off. Then shouting from the garden. Elena and her mother exchanged glances and rushed out. Chaos had erupted on the veranda. Mercedes was gesturing wildly, her face twisted in fury. Jose stood opposite her, equally enraged. Carlos was trying in vain to separate them. What a despicable little family! Mercedes screamed. Can't even treat their son-in-law's mother with basic courtesy. The moment something goes wrong, they throw their house in your face. You can choke on it for all I care. My God, what's happening? Whispered Sofia, frozen in the doorway. No one noticed them enter. Jose, usually calm and thoughtful, was red with rage. You, Donna Mercedes, are lost in your own fantasies. No one threw anything in your face. Your son lied about owning this house. Don't you dare insult my son. Mercedes shouted, stepping forward. Unlike your spoiled little princess, Carlos achieved everything on his own. Without a daddy's house and car. What are you even talking about? Carlos burst out. Mom, calm down. This is all my fault. Stop attacking Elena's parents. I'm defending you, you ungrateful child. Mercedes turned sharply, knocking over a glass of sherry. The amber liquid spilled onto the pristine tablecloth. Look what you've done. My new tablecloth. It can be washed, Elena said wearily. Can we just? Oh, of course. Mercedes interrupted. It means nothing to you. You're all so wealthy, right? With your house and your car and all your unexplained luxuries. How dare you? Jose exploded. Are you accusing us of something illegal? I'm not accusing, Mercedes retorted. I'm just amazed how two public sector workers can afford such luxury. Luxury? Elena echoed, stunned. You think an old house and a 10-year-old seat is luxury? Compared to what you deserve, yes, Mercedes snapped, then fell silent, realizing she'd gone too far. Sophia went pale. Jose slowly rose, his expression full of contempt. You've crossed every line, Donna Mercedes. I'm asking you to leave our home. And where am I supposed to go at this hour? She shrieked. You're going to throw an old woman out into the night? I'll take you in a taxi, Carlos said firmly. You really should go. You're not yourself tonight. Mercedes looked around, as if unable to believe she was being asked to leave. Her gaze fell on the cake. How dare you? She muttered, walking over. Then she grabbed the cake and hurled it off the veranda. It splattered on the path below. Here's your hospitality. She screamed. Carlito, we're leaving. I won't stay in this house a moment longer. Diego and Laura, who had been sitting silently, stood up as if on cue. We'd better head out too, Diego mumbled. Thanks for, the evening. Sorry for. He didn't finish. Carlos stood motionless, staring at his mother with an unreadable expression. Shock? Shame? Resignation? Did you hear me? Mercedes tugged his sleeve. We're going. Mom, Carlos spoke softly but firmly, you just threw a birthday cake, stained the tablecloth, and insulted Elena's parents. Don't you think you should apologize? Absolutely not. Mercedes huffed. They started it. Started what? Carlos raised his voice. Letting us use their house? Making the cake? Buying gifts? They humiliated me. Mercedes sobbed. Her mascara ran down her cheeks in black streaks. Made a fool of me. My own son lied to me. Mom, Carlos rubbed his face, exhausted. No one made you look like a fool. I did this. I wanted to impress you, show you I was successful. It was my decision, do you understand? Mercedes fell silent, breathing heavily. Her face, contorted with anger moments ago, now looked lost. So you admit you lied to me? Her voice cracked. You, my son, my pride? Carlos swallowed and nodded. Yes, Mom. I'm sorry. This house belongs to Elena's parents. They've simply allowed us to stay here. Mercedes made a strange noise, half sob, half groan. Her face turned pale, as though someone had turned down the brightness on a screen. You shamed me, she whispered. On my birthday. In front of everyone. There was no more rage in her voice, only fatigue and disappointment. The sudden shift in her tone shocked Elena more than the earlier explosion. Let me call you a taxi, Carlos said gently, pulling out his phone. Mercedes said nothing. She walked into the house and returned minutes later with her purse. She sat on the bench, staring into the dark garden. Her shoulders slumped, hands limp on her knees. The silence was heavy, sticky, like air before a storm. Jose and Sofia exchanged uncertain looks. "The taxi will be here in 15 minutes, Carlos said quietly. "I'll go with you," Elena suddenly said. Everyone turned to her in surprise. "Why?" Carlos asked. "I don't want you driving after drinking," she lied. In truth, she just needed to escape the nightmare, breathe fresh air, and think. "Okay," Carlos nodded. "We'll take her and come back." But Elena suddenly wasn't sure she wanted to come back that night. Maybe they should stay in the city and let everyone cool down. Her parents surely needed time to recover from the humiliation. 15 minutes felt like an eternity. No one spoke. Jose quietly cleared the table. Sofia picked up shards from a broken cup. When had that even happened? Carlos leaned against the veranda railing. Mercedes didn't move, a wax figure in her wrinkled, stained suit. Finally, headlights flickered at the gate. Carlos helped his mother up. "Let's go, Mom." Mercedes moved like a robot, feet shuffling. At the gate, she suddenly turned. "Jose, Sofia," her voice unnaturally even, "thank you for the hospitality. Sorry about the cake." Without waiting for a reply, she walked to the taxi. Carlos spread his hands helplessly. We'll be back soon. I'm sorry for all of this." Elena hugged her parents quickly. "Please forgive her. It was the sherry and the situation." "It's all right," Sofia stroked her daughter's shoulder. "Drive safe." Jose said nothing, just gave a short nod. No one spoke in the taxi. Mercedes stared out the window. Carlos drummed his fingers nervously on his knee. Elena tried to gather her scattered thoughts. The city felt alien, bright shop windows, wandering crowds, drunken laughter from taverns, like a parallel universe with no room for family drama and disgrace. The taxi stopped in front of Mercedes's apartment complex. She flung open the door and stepped out unsteadily. "Mom, wait," Carlos followed her, paying the driver. Elena hesitated. Part of her wanted to stay behind. But leaving Carlos alone with his enraged mother felt unfair. "No rush," the driver said, noticing her hesitation. "I can wait." "Thank you," Elena nodded and stepped out. Carlos had caught up to his mother. She was pointing a finger at his chest, ranting. Elena hurried to catch up, hearing snatches of her fury, such humiliation. In front of everyone. Like a complete fool. "Mom, let's go upstairs," Carlos said calmly, but Elena could see the tension in his back. "Never." Mercedes pulled away. "I don't want to see you in my home. You betrayed me. Do you understand? Betrayed." Her shout echoed in the quiet courtyard. Shadows flickered in windows above. "Donna Mercedes," Elena approached, "you're drawing attention. Let's go upstairs and talk in private." Mercedes turned, as if only now realizing Elena was there. "Ah," the daughter-in-law, her voice dripped venom. "Come to witness my disgrace?" "There's no disgrace," Elena replied tiredly. "Just a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Mercedes let out a harsh, barking laugh. "My son made me a laughingstock in front of your parents, my friends. He made me believe a stranger's house was his. And you call that a misunderstanding?" There was truth in her words, truth Elena couldn't deny. Carlos's behavior had been shameful. But staging a scene in the courtyard wasn't helping either. "Let's at least go upstairs," Elena repeated. "It's chilly outside, you might catch a cold." That argument, concern for her health, always worked on Mercedes Fernandez. Even now, in a state of extreme agitation, she instinctively adjusted the collar of her jacket. "Fine," she finally muttered. "But only for 5 minutes. I don't want you lingering in my home." The elevator ride to the 7th floor, in a cramped cabin, was excruciating. Mercedes stood pressed into the corner, radiating wounded dignity. Elena stared at the worn linoleum at her feet. Carlos fixed his gaze on the elevator rules placard. When they entered the apartment, immaculately clean and smelling faintly of lavender air freshener, Mercedes headed straight to the living room. Kicking off her shoes in the hall, she said, without turning back. "Don't even think of stepping into the room. I'm going to change and come back. 5 minutes. No more." With that, she disappeared behind the bedroom door. Carlos and Elena remained standing in the small hallway, unsure what to do. "Let's sit down," Carlos whispered, nodding toward the kitchen. Elena hesitantly followed him. In the spotless kitchen, everything gleamed. Pots were arranged by size, drawers labeled in neat, tiny handwriting, grains, tea, coffee, spices. Even the dish towels were hung in a gradient from light to dark. "Like a museum," Elena murmured, sitting gingerly on the edge of a chair. "What?" Carlos turned from the fridge, where he'd been searching for water. "Nothing," she shook her head. "Just tell me what's going on. Not just what happened at the house, all of it. The lie about the property." Carlos sighed and sat across from her, placing a bottle of mineral water on the table. "It's hard to explain," he began, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Mom always had high expectations. It's important to her that I appear successful to others." "But you are successful," Elena said gently. "You have a good job, a growing career." "That's not enough," Carlos gave a bitter smile. "She wants tangible proof. An apartment, a car, a country house. When you grow up with a mother constantly comparing you to her friends' children, it seeps under your skin." Elena suddenly felt a stab of pity for her husband. She'd never really thought about what it must be like to grow up under the constant pressure of living up to someone else's expectations. Her own parents had always supported her without pushing. "And so you decided to tell her the country house was yours?" she asked quietly. "It just happened." Carlos ran his fingers through his hair. "I was telling her about our plans, how we spent time there. She drew her own conclusions, and I just didn't correct her." "Carlos, you're not a child," Elena shook her head. "Not correcting someone is still lying." "I know," he said with a rueful smile. "But you have no idea what a star I became in her eyes these last few months. My son bought a house." She told everyone, neighbors, her friends, even strangers on the bus. "And now?" Elena felt anxiety rising inside. She took the truth as betrayal. "I'm not sure she'll forgive you so easily." "Mom usually gets over things," Carlos shrugged uncertainly. "She always rants and then calms down." Elena wanted to argue, but just then the kitchen door swung open. Mercedes Fernandez stood in the doorway, now changed into a house robe, her face washed, hair tied up in a bun. Without makeup, she looked older, more vulnerable. "5 minutes are up," she said coldly. "Please leave my home." "Mom, let's talk." Carlos stood up. "I know you're upset." "Upset?" Mercedes let out a joyless laugh. "Oh no, Carlos. I'm not upset. I'm destroyed. You turned my birthday into a joke." "No one laughed at you," Carlos said gently. "Let's sit down and talk it through. I'll explain everything." "I don't want your explanations," Mercedes raised her voice. "I raised you my whole life, gave you the best of everything. Denied myself so you wouldn't lack a thing. And this is how you repay me, by humiliating me in front of," she threw a contemptuous glance at Elena, "strangers." "Donna Mercedes," Elena tried to interject. "My parents aren't strangers. We're family." "Family?" Mercedes turned sharply toward her. "What family? What have you ever done for my son? All you do is take advantage of his kindness. He could have married a girl from a proper family, with status, with prospects. And instead..." "Mom, that's enough." Carlos slammed his fist on the table, making the cups rattle. "You have no right to speak about Elena or her parents that way." Mercedes froze as if doused with cold water. Fear flickered in her eyes, then her face turned to stone. "I see you've made your choice," she said through clenched teeth. "Fine. Go. But don't expect me to welcome you anytime soon. Mom. Leave, she shouted. Both of you. Now. Elena stood, her knees shaking. The situation had spiraled out of control. She'd expected a scene, but not a total rupture. Carlos, let's go, she said softly. Your mother needs time to calm down. He hesitated, his face torn with guilt and pain. Mercedes turned away and began scrubbing an already spotless countertop. Fine, Carlos finally managed. But I'll call tomorrow. Don't bother, Mercedes replied icily, not turning around. I'll be busy. They left in silence. Only in the elevator did Carlos exhale. God, what a day. Elena didn't respond. A storm of emotions swirled inside her, pity for Carlos, anger for her parents, frustration with her mother-in-law, and worst of all, doubt in her husband. The man she was building a life with. The taxi was still waiting. The driver dozed, slumped in his seat. Carlos tapped the window. Sorry, were you waiting for us? The driver stirred. Oh, it's you. Yes. Where to now? Carlos looked at Elena questioningly. Back to the country house? She hesitated. Going back felt hard, the memory of the argument, the thrown cake, the accusations was too fresh. But where else could they go? Their rented apartment was locked, and the keys were in the country house. Yes, back to the house, she finally decided. I need to apologize to my parents and grab my things. Grab your things? Carlos repeated. You're not staying for the weekend? I don't know, Elena said honestly. I need time to think. The drive back was heavy with silence. Elena stared out the window at the lights of the city, which slowly gave way to the dark silhouettes of suburban houses. Carlos tried several times to start a conversation, but each time he fell silent mid-sentence, unable to find the right words. When the car reached the village, it was nearly midnight. After paying the driver, they slowly walked down the path to the house. The lights were still on, her parents were awake, waiting. God, I'm so ashamed, Carlos murmured at the gate. I don't know what to say to your parents. The truth, Elena said simply. They need a sincere apology, not excuses. The familiar creak of the gate sounded unusually loud in the still night. Light flared on the porch, and Jose Ramirez stepped outside to meet them. You're back, he said flatly. How's Dona Mercedes? As well as can be expected, Carlos sighed. Jose, I'm so sorry. What I did was inexcusable. Elena's father looked at him for a moment, then nodded toward the porch. Come inside. Sophia made tea. The porch had been cleaned, no trace of the earlier chaos. A new tablecloth replaced the stained one. 4 steaming cups of tea waited on the table. Sophia stood to greet them. Her eyes were tired, but not angry. Sit down, she gestured to the chairs. Let's talk. Carlos sank heavily into a seat. Sophia, Jose, I don't even know where to begin. At the beginning, Jose said calmly. Why did you lie to your mother about the house? Carlos took a deep breath and began to explain how his mother always raised the bar, how he feared disappointing her, how a small lie had snowballed out of control. Elena's parents listened in silence. When he finished, Sophia quietly asked, And you think material success is the only thing that matters to your mother? For mine, yes, Carlos replied bitterly. She's always measured my worth by what I have, not who I am. Elena felt a sudden pain for her husband. Despite all his flaws and the ugliness of today's lie, he was, in his own way, a deeply unhappy man, trapped in his mother's expectations. Carlos, Jose set down his cup. We're not here to lecture you. You're a grown man, and you know you were wrong. I do, Carlos nodded. And I promise it won't happen again. It's not about promises, Jose continued. It's about trust. You're married to our daughter. We accepted you into our family. And now we learn you can lie so easily about something that affects all of us. Carlos lowered his head. I didn't think it would affect you. I thought it was just between me and Mom. In a family, there's no such thing as just between, Sophia said gently. Everything one person does affects everyone else. I understand, Carlos looked up. And I truly regret it. I swear I'll do everything I can to fix this. That won't be easy, Jose noted. Judging by your mother's reaction, she's deeply hurt. She'll get over it, Carlos said, not sounding convinced. She just needs time. Elena remembered Mercedes's frozen face, her icy tone, and doubted her husband's optimism. But she said nothing. In any case, Sophia placed her hand over Carlos's. We hope you make peace. No matter what, she's your mother. And she loves you. I know, he smiled weakly. Thank you. For your understanding. I don't deserve it, not after what I did. Everyone makes mistakes, Jose said philosophically. The key is learning the right lessons from them. The conversation gradually turned to more neutral topics, the weather, work, plans for the week. But Elena could feel the tension hadn't gone anywhere. It lingered in every glance, every pause between words. When her parents finally went to bed, leaving them alone on the porch, silence settled over them. Elena stared at the dark garden lit only by moonlight and thought about how a single small lie could shift the entire world. What are you thinking about? Carlos asked softly, moving closer. Us, she answered honestly. About what I didn't know. I never imagined what you'd be capable of doing for your mother's approval. Carlos winced. You make it sound like I committed a crime. No, Elena shook her head. But you lied. And not just a little lie. You created an entire alternate reality where you owned someone else's property. I know it was stupid, he covered his face with his hands. It's just, sometimes, I wish so badly for my mom to be proud of me. Really proud. No qualifiers, no comparisons to Paco from next door who's already a director. Elena's heart ached with pity. But pity shouldn't cloud the truth. Carlos, if you build our relationship on lies, big or small, it's over. Do you understand? He nodded slowly. I do. And I promise, no more lies. Not even to impress someone. Elena wanted to believe him. Truly. But deep down, doubt had already taken root. If he'd lied so easily about the house, what else might he be hiding? What other small or large untruths lurked behind his confident smile? Let's go to bed, she said, standing. Tomorrow's a new day. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. Carlos lay beside her, breathing evenly, drifting off as if the argument and confession meant nothing. She stared at the ceiling, replaying the day in her mind, the image of Mercedes hurling the cake, her parents' shocked faces, Laura's cloying sympathy. And most of all, Carlos's face, guilty, but also calculating, as if weighing how to get out with minimal damage. When the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, Elena made a decision. She quietly got up, went to the kitchen, and turned on the kettle. From her bag she took a notepad and pen, sat at the table, and began to write. Carlos, I need time to think. I'm going away for a few days to stay with a friend. Please don't look for me or call, I'll reach out when I'm ready. What happened yesterday made me question our marriage and how well we really know each other. If you can construct such an elaborate lie for your mother's approval, what else are you hiding? I love you, but I can't live in a relationship without complete trust. I'm sorry if this feels like running away. I truly need space to think. She reread it, tore the page out, folded it, and placed it in plain sight. Then she quietly packed what she needed, called her friend, luckily, she answered despite the early hour, and ordered a taxi. As she left the house, Elena cast one last glance at her sleeping husband. His face in sleep looked so peaceful, almost childlike. She felt a pang of doubt, was she doing the right thing? But she pushed that thought away. She truly needed this pause. To figure out what she felt, and what came next. The gate creaked in its familiar way, as if saying goodbye. Elena stepped onto the road and took a deep breath of the morning air. A new day was beginning, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't know what it would bring. But somehow, that uncertainty didn't frighten her, it filled her with a strange sense of freedom. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, the taxi had arrived. Elena cast one last glance at the country house that held so many memories, then turned and walked decisively toward the car. The future was unclear, but one thing she knew for sure, she would never again allow someone else's lies to shape her life. At the very moment she got into the taxi, Carlos's phone rang back at the country house. The call was from the city hospital. Mercedes Fernandez had been admitted with a heart attack. But Elena never heard that call. Her car turned the corner, carrying her away from a shattered celebration, broken expectations, and the fragments of deceit that now each person would have to gather on their own.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.